Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to share this one with you because today we're unpacking a true modern marvel of infrastructure. We're looking at the primary international gateway, the absolute beating heart of East Africa. I'm talking about Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, best known by its famous code, NBO. Okay, let's dive into this. It sounds a bit like the setup to a riddle, right? What connects millions of fresh-cut roses, high-level global diplomats, and the wild expanse of the Masai Mara? Well, the answer is literally a single piece of infrastructure. All of these wildly different ecosystems, global logistics, international relations, and world-class wildlife tourism, they all revolve entirely around this one critical transit point in Kenya. And to really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what we're dealing with here, we just have to look at the numbers. 9 million. That is the massive number of passengers handled by NBO every single year. It's officially the busiest aviation hub in the entire East African region. So right out of the gate, this number tells us we aren't just talking about a building where you wait to catch a flight. We are talking about a highly complex, super high-volume, high-performing machine that literally never stops. Section 1, the East African Gateway. To really get the big picture here, we have to zoom out and look at NBO's strategic placement. It's located in the Embakasi suburb, which is about 18 kilometers southeast of Nairobi's central business district. And it serves as this absolutely indispensable link, connecting the African continent to Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas. It is basically a geographical sweet spot. This quote actually brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're analyzing today. NBO is, quote, the central engine for Kenya's tourism industry, international commerce, and diplomatic affairs. Without this hub, the gears of these three massive industries would just grind to a halt. It goes way beyond just moving people. It moves the economy itself. Moving on to Section 2, a global aviation hub. Now, if you want to understand how any engine works, you've got to look at its moving parts. And in this case, that means the specific airlines and logistics networks that make this place function day in and day out. Let's break down the primary operational bases that actually call NBO home. Right at the top of the list, we've got the national flag carrier, Kenya Airways. They operate a massive mega hub out of Terminal 1A, running flagship long-haul routes to major cities, places like New York, London, Paris, and Amsterdam, plus dozens of African destinations. Then you have JumboJet. That's their low-cost subsidiary, driving high-frequency domestic routes to the coast and all those famous safari spots. And finally, there's African Express Airways, which uses NBO as its primary base to feed regional flights all across East Africa and the Horn of Africa. But hey, it's not just regional airlines here. Because Nairobi is such a powerful regional business capital and famously hosts major United Nations headquarters, it draws in some serious heavy wide-body traffic from global carriers. We're talking British Airways, KLM, Emirates, and Turkish Airlines. On top of that, it's one of Africa's absolute premier air freight centers. Cargo giants like Astral Aviation, Lufthansa Cargo, and Qatar Airways Cargo, they run these massive daily freighter operations right out of NBO. Section 3, Safaris, Flowers, and Legacy. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how we transition from the hard logistics of aviation to the cultural and economic soul of the region. Starting with an absolutely fascinating logistical feat. In air logistics circles, NBO is actually famous for being a global fresh flower capital. The airport houses these incredibly specialized, temperature-controlled cargo centers. Every single day, millions of stems of delicate fresh-cut Kenyan roses, along with tea and fresh produce, are processed and flown straight to auctions in Europe and North America. It is quite literally a race against the clock to keep these flowers perfect, and NBO handles it flawlessly on a massive scale. So, the next time you buy a fresh bouquet for your dining room table, there's a very, very good chance it passed through this exact logistical pipeline. And of course, we have to talk about the legacy behind the name itself. The airport originally opened way back in 1958 as Embakasi Airport. But in 1978, it was officially renamed to honor Jomo Kenyatta, who was the founding father and the very first president of an independent Kenya. So it really stands as a daily reminder of the nation's history, proudly displayed on the global stage. Section 4, Engineering and Architecture. Let's move on and see how this builds into the unique environmental challenges the airport's engineers had to solve. Because, as it turns out, operating a global hub isn't just about managing flight schedules, it is about solving some seriously complex physical problems. While the IATA code is pretty standard, take a close look at that elevation, 1,624 meters. That is 5,328 feet above sea level. For a major international airport, that is incredibly high. And right below that, you'll see it operates on a single primary asphalt runway that spans a massive 4,117 meters. So, the crucial point here is why on earth that runway needs to be so incredibly long. It all comes down to high-altitude engineering. This is a fantastic little mini-narrative of aeronautical physics. Because Nairobi is located at such a high elevation and the climate is generally warm, the air there is remarkably thin. And as you might know, thin air generates far less lift for aircraft wings. Therefore, engineers literally had to build one of the longest runways in all of Africa. We're talking over 4 kilometers long, just so those fully loaded, heavy wide-body jets can build up enough speed and distance to safely achieve liftoff. It's a brilliant engineering workaround. Then, on the terminal side of things, architects faced a different kind of challenge: how to move millions of passengers efficiently. The solution? A really unique semicircular layout divided into specialized zones, 1A through 1E. This curve is specifically designed to perfectly optimize passenger flow, seamlessly managing domestic arrivals, international departures, and regional transit gates all at once. Meanwhile, Terminal 2 stands right nearby as a dedicated, streamlined facility for low-cost and regional carriers. Finally, Section 5, connecting the city. Because let's be honest, an airport is really only as good as its ability to connect you to your actual destination. Historically, exiting NBO meant facing this notorious, agonizing traffic gridlock on Mombasa Road. It often meant travel times of well over an hour just to reach downtown. But the recent opening of the elevated Nairobi Expressway, total game changer. It's a tale of two eras. This toll highway literally slashed travel times into central Nairobi and Westlands down to a wildly efficient 15 to 20 minutes. It has completely revolutionized the airport's connectivity to the rest of the city. And for the hundreds of thousands of tourists arriving for the classic safari experience, that connectivity looks exactly like these steps. Imagine this. Step 1, you arrive at MBO on a massive wide-body jet from London or New York. Step 2, you grab a short, smooth ground transfer via the new expressway or shuttle. Step 3, you seamlessly connect over at Wilson Airport, which is Nairobi's secondary, smaller airport, to board a light aircraft bush flight straight out to the Masai Mara, Amboseli, or Tsavo. It is just this perfectly choreographed logistical dance. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. How does a single transit point become the beating economic and cultural heart of East Africa? Well, we've just seen it. We've seen it through the brilliant high-altitude engineering, those massive global cargo networks flying delicate roses overnight, and the cutting-edge infrastructure tying the whole shebang together. Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is absolutely the engine driving the region forward. But it leaves us with a really fascinating question. As global demand for faster freight and ecotourism absolutely skyrockets over the next decade, how will this high-altitude hub evolve to carry the weight of an entire continent's future?